This is a PD video into the life of the Barony Mill. We will hear from young tour guide Ellen Hay, and we will also see Margaret Phillips prepare a traditional Bere bannock.
So this is the Barony Mill, and it is the last working water mill in Orkney. The mill was built in 1873 by a man called William Hepburn, and he was the first miller. What we do here is we make Bere meal flour, and this is made from a grain called Bere, which is an ancient form of barley. It's thought to be about 5,000 years old. And in 1997, the Birsay Heritage Trust took on the mill, and they've had it ever since. So up here on the top floor we have the kiln, and this is where we dry all of our grain before we go into milling. This is because Orkney has a very wet climate, so the grain needs to be really dry so we can mill it. It's up here for about 5 to 6 hours drying, and then we have to let it cool overnight to then go on to the milling process. We have a fire that heats the kiln, and this is run by the husks that we take off of the grain, meaning that it's 100% sustainable.
There is many recipes for Bere bannocks as there are folk that mark them, and this is mine, and even that changes fractionally from time to time. So I've got 1 cup of flour. This is celebrating just to make sure that it rises a bit. And I use 3 a Bere meal, although a lot of folk just use 2. Bit of salt. Heap teaspoon of cream of tartar. 2 of bicarbonate of soda, just checking it is. And then I just use a whisk and mix it all together. I'm gonna sieve it. Hopefully it will let some air in it too. And then I add about a dessert spoon of margarine, which I think helps them to keep soft for longer. I'm not a scientist, so I'm not quite sure of the whys of that. And rub that in. Now I'll add, we'll try a cup of milk. It just kind of varies as, I don't know, I don't always use a cup, maybe that's what it is. And a little bit of water too. I do like the mixture to be quite soft and sticky. Okay, right, I'll just put it there and put a bit more spearmint on it. Cut it roughly in 3. I didn't use a rolling pin, I just flatten them. Look. Mine tend to be a bit rustic. Now, I cook them on this. I bought it for Lidl's, it's left it for years. Just flatten the top slightly. And they take about 6 minutes each side. The heat is not too high. If you have it too hot, they burn before they're cooked in the middle.
The grain is dropped down from the kiln here into the hoppers and is bagged up and moved along to the millstones. This is assisted by the use of the central hoist throughout the mill, which is powered by the water wheel outside. Here we have our 3 milling stones. Our first one is called the shilling stone, and this is what scrapes the husk off of the grain. Over here we have our oatmeal stone, and this is what grinds down the grain into what we call grap. It then moves on to the final stone, which is called the Bere meal stone, and this grinds our grap down into our fine Bere meal flour. On each set we have 2 stones, so the bottom one is fixed and the top one rotates round to grind the grain. Outside we have our water wheel, and this runs at 12 revolutions per minute. The gears then drive this up to make the stones go 10 times faster at 120 revolutions per minute. So here we have the main gearings of the mill, with the central shaft of the water wheel entering below. This drives the spur wheel, and the spur wheel has wooden teeth, and this has been designed that if there's an emergency in the mill, these teeth will break and the whole mill will stop. The spur wheel then has to drive everything upstairs to power the mill.
Maybe even 7 minutes each side, and I think they're ready. So cold, not white, so that's the texture in the middle. It's traditionally eaten with butter and cheese, but can be jam. I even know somebody that eats Orkney honey on their beer bannock. So that's the traditional fare, beer bannocks and cheese.
Here we can see a field of Bere being harvested across from the Barony Mill in Bushy. Bere is the ancient variation of barley and grows in 4 to 6 rows in comparison with modern day barley, which grows in 2 rows. Bere, whilst being 50% less yield, grows very well in Orkney as it is tolerant of the cool and wet climate and is often referred to as the 90-day yield. A mill has stood on this site since the age of the Vikings. The modern day mill was built in 1873 and it fell into disrepair in the late 90s. This spurred on the Bushy community to come together and establish the Bushy Heritage Trust, and over the period of a few years lovingly restored the mill back into working condition, and it has been operated by the Trust ever since, which is made up of local volunteers. The Barony Mill is open for visitors during the summer months, with milling taking place over the winter months. With every year, the mill is going from strength to strength with increased demand and interest. And if you would like to find more about our work, please visit our brand new website, baronymill.com.